Alex lived in a town where everyone knew his name. It was cozy, familiar, but Alex felt restless. He yearned for something more than the quiet rhythm of his small town. His father, a carpenter with calloused hands and a heart of gold, couldn't understand Alex's yearning. "This town has been good enough for generations," he'd say, his voice rough with time and toil. But Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. He dreamed of bustling cities and unknown faces. He craved the thrill of the unknown, the chance to discover who he was beyond the cornfields and the familiar faces. One hot summer night, after a particularly heated argument with his father, Alex decided to leave. He packed a small bag, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and exhilaration. He didn't look back as he walked away from the only home he'd ever known. The silence between him and his father felt vast, like a bridge suddenly broken. He hitched a ride with a trucker heading north, towards the glimmering promise of the city. With each mile, he felt the weight of his old life fall away. The city welcomed Alex with open arms and a symphony of sound. Skyscrapers scraped the sky, and the streets throbbed with a frenetic energy that both excited and intimidated him. He found a cramped apartment and a series of odd jobs to make ends meet. The city, he soon realized, was a place of constant motion, of dreams pursued and often shattered. Loneliness became his constant companion. The anonymity he craved morphed into isolation. The city lights, once dazzling, now seemed cold and distant. One rainy afternoon, as Alex huddled in a doorway, seeking shelter from the downpour, he heard a familiar melody. A street musician, his face etched with hardship, was playing an old folk song. It was a song his father often whistled while working in his workshop. A song that evoked the scent of sawdust and the comforting rhythm of his father's hammer. The music pierced through Alex's loneliness, stirring up a longing for home, for family, for the simple life he had left behind. He realized then that the city held no answers for him, only echoes of his own loneliness. Section 5. The long road home. The journey home was a blur. He traveled by bus, his face pressed against the window, watching the city lights fade into the familiar landscape of his childhood. With each passing mile, the weight of his mistakes pressed down on him. He thought of his father, his weathered face etched with disappointment the day Alex left. He didn't know if his father would welcome him back. He didn't know if the bridge they'd broken could ever be repaired. But he knew he had to try. Section 6. Open arms and a hot meal. As Alex walked up the dirt road to his childhood home, his heart pounded in his chest. He saw his father sitting on the porch, his shoulders slumped. Before Alex could utter a word, his father stood up. His eyes, though filled with unshed tears, held a glimmer of forgiveness. He opened his arms, and Alex fell into them. There were no accusations, no recriminations, just the comforting warmth of his father's embrace and the smell of his mother's cooking wafting from the kitchen window. Section 7. Roots and Wings. The days that followed were a balm to Alex's soul. He worked alongside his father, their shared silence speaking volumes. He rediscovered the simple pleasures of his childhood, fishing in the creek, watching the sunset over the cornfields. He realized that his journey, though painful, had been necessary. He had gone in search of himself and found his way back, forever changed by the experience. He learned that home wasn't just a place, but a feeling, a refuge for the soul. Section 8. The prodigal son returns. The townsfolk, who had once whispered about his sudden departure, welcomed him back with open arms. They too had their own stories of dreams chased and lessons learned. They saw in Alex's eyes a newfound maturity, a quiet strength that came from facing his mistakes and finding his way back. He was no longer the restless youth who had left in search of something more. He was a man who had found himself by returning to his roots. Section 9. The Gift of Perspective. Life in the small town wasn't perfect, but it was home. Alex found contentment in the familiar rhythm of life, in the love of his family, in the quiet beauty of his surroundings. He had ventured out into the world and returned with the gift of perspective. He learned that sometimes, the greatest adventures are the ones that lead us back to where we belong. He learned that home is not a place to escape from, but a place to grow into. And he learned that the love of family is a beacon that can guide us through the darkest of nights, leading us back to ourselves.